Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Redeye and in today's video we are going to be going through the Sekiro Shadows DIe Twice mini art book. This is not the full-size art book that Sekiro has. This is the smaller version that came with the collector's edition of the game, which I bought on release. With the physical edition of the game. I bought the physical edition mainly just for this book. The physical edition also came with a small statue of Wolf, but for me it was mainly just about the art book. So let's get into it, shall we? So I don't know what texture this book has, but it has a very rough finish, which actually feels very nice, and it makes a great tap sound. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it or not. Kind of muffled, but I like it. If you're into tapping, I'm not sure if you like it or not, but that's not what we're going to be doing today. Today we're just going to be perusing through the book. So let's get started. Sekiro Shadows DIe Twice. Table of contents. So on page 4 we have story, on page 6 we have environmental artwork, and on page 20 we have characters, as well as over here a picture of Wolf surrounded by flowers. I really like this picture. It's kind of glossy. I don't know if that'll pick up on camera, but it's a really good picture. So we start off where we start off in the game, in the Ashina Castle Reservoir, which is really good. We can see Emma here with her red umbrella. She's probably on her way to drop down that note to Wolf. Over here we have the hidden jail and the moon tower where Kuro is being held prisoner by Lord Genichiro. Then here, this is the inside of Ashina Castle, or at least some of its decorations. This is one of many of the hanging scrolls and artworks in the interior of the castle. I really like how much detail they put into making this castle really feel like not only lived in, but a believable castle for the time period this game is set in. You know, there's pictures of samurai everywhere, there's mats, there's all kinds of stuff. And I'm a big fan of world building, and when it comes to world building, there really is no one better at it than FromSoftware, in my opinion anyway. Here we have the Dilapidated Temple, where we can find the Sculptor, and where Wolf wakes up for the first time after losing his arm, defending Kuro from Genichiro despite failing, and this is where he gains the Shinobi Prosthetic. This is also where we meet Lady Emma for the first time. And at the beginning, she's very hesitant. She doesn't want to say who her master is, because I'm guessing she probably thought that if she told Wolf, oh, I work for the Ashina family, that wouldn't have gone over too well. So she stays mysterious for the first little bit of the game, which I think is pretty cool. She's also this game's version of a firekeeper. If you've played any of the Dark Souls games, she's the one who you bring gourd seeds to upgrade your gourd and gain more healing abilities. So yeah, I absolutely love this area, and you can see all of the, I don't know if they're stapled on or nailed on talismans onto the shrine, which I just think is a really great detail, especially if you know about the Buddha, or not the Buddha, the Sculptor carving the Buddha and how his Buddhas turn out, since they all end up looking like devils due to his internal struggle. Next we have another picture of Ashina Castle, this time during the day and this time from a much better angle. We see some crows flying overhead. I really like Ashina Castle as an environment in a FromSoftware game. It's probably one of my favorites, both in terms of its interior and exterior. I just think that it's so much fun to explore, and all of the little secret rooms and hidden passageways are amazing. FromSoftware did an incredible job designing this place, and this is kind of becomes your hub for most of the game because you keep coming and going on Kuro's request, but you always end up coming back to Ashina Castle. And as you do, you find it in different states as the story progresses. This is the Jaws of Death with some more artwork, the sliding screen painting, the Watchtower Gate interior. I absolutely love this picture here. I think it's really good. I like the sky, the trees, everything just has such a moody atmosphere. This whole game has a great atmosphere, I think. Here we are at Mount Congo. This looks like the base of the mountain. We see Wolf here with the mortal blade on his back. The leaves are in autumn. It's probably the staple of this whole area is the constant orange trees and orange leaves scattered everywhere on the ground. Again, another extremely memorable environment. Here's some castle outskirts. The Hirata estate, in the midst of it being sacked by the bandits, who Owl brought back when he knew that Wolf and all the other shinobi would be away. So, as you can see, Hirata Estate is currently in flames. We also have some concept art for some chests. Usually, these are where you find the Shinobi Prosthetics. And yeah, I really like, even though some people might say it's mundane, just concept art of this kind of stuff I really like. This is one of the main reasons why I like Artbook so much, is just because of things like this. Okay, characters. So here we have Lord Kuro, who is the divine heir and who has the dragon's heritage, which makes him immortal despite just being a child himself. His quest throughout the game, for those who haven't played it, is trying to sever the dragon's heritage to get rid of immortality from this world, because he believes that immortality corrupts the lives of men, and it's up to the player to determine if and or how they want to assist him in doing so. Wolf obviously will do whatever Kuro says, but there are many different ways that this objective can be completed. And over here we have Wolf, who is our protagonist, main character of Sekiro. We see him holding his katana here, along with the mortal blade slung along his back. The Mortal Blade is the only weapon that is able to hurt and kill people who have the dragon's heritage. So this is an item that Kuro actually sends Wolf to go and get. I know a lot of people don't really like playing as Wolf because Wolf is an actual character. In a lot of FromSoftware games, you play as essentially create a character where you can choose what you look like, what weapons you use, what armor you use, what rings, talismans, whatever you want to call them. But in Sekiro, you just play as Wolf, who just uses his signature katana. Personally, I actually prefer this. I know that's a fairly hot take, but having one play style that you need to master and able to beat the game is much more up my alley. Sekiro, for this reason, is probably tied with Bloodborne for my favorite FromSoftware game. Okay, who is next? Here we have Lady Emma, the doctor to Lord Ishin Ashina. Like I said earlier, at the beginning of the game, when we first meet her, she's very mysterious and will not tell you who she serves, but then later on in the game, we find out that she serves Lord Ishin. What I really like about Emma is if you pursue the Shura ending, she actually becomes a boss, and you would think that her being just this small woman compared to Wolf, she can absolutely wipe the floor with Wolf, and I mean full-on body slamming the guy, so she is not to be messed with, despite what she looks like and how polite she is. She is a force to be reckoned with, and one of my favorite characters in the game. And speaking of favorite characters, here is Lord Genichiro Ashina with his signature bow. I absolutely love Genichiro. He's easily my favorite character in Sekiro. His boss fight is one of my favorite boss fights in all of FromSoftware games. When I first played Sekiro when it came out, it took me about 3 hours to finally defeat him, because I was not expecting that third stage, and when the third stage arrived, I got instantly wiped across the floor. So, his moveset is really good. He has loads of ranged attacks, close attacks, combos, you name it. And since, or after they added the boss gauntlet update at least once every 2 months or so, I'll go back into Sekiro purely just to fight Genichiro. Nothing else. I'll just fight him a couple of times and then close the game, just because I enjoy fighting him that much. Who's next? We have the Sculptor in extreme detail. The Sculptor, aka Sekiro, the one-armed orangutan. He is the one who gives Wolf the Shinobi Prosthetic. That's why when we meet him in the game, he only has one arm, because he gave his prosthetic to Wolf. I don't know how many people know this, but it was actually Ishin who cut off his arm, and I think that's partially why he's so bitter towards Ashina and its soldiers later on in the game, once his transformation happens, I don't want to go into too much detail out of spoilers, but yeah, you'll see. He stays at the Dilapidated Temple and has a fondness for monkey brews, which, let's be honest, if we all had a chance to drink monkey brews, I think we'd take it. Over here we have Hanbei. Hanbei serves as almost like a tutorial for the player. He is immortal too, like Wolf. However, unlike Wolf, he isn't immortal due to receiving the blood of Kuro. He is immortal due to the everlasting centipedes. I believe that's what they're called. And when you meet him, he is very depressed and he's just ready to die. And once you gain the Mortal Blade, you actually gain the option to either kill him and grant him mercy and let him die, or refuse and keep him around for training. I've played Sekiro probably about 15 or 16 times now, and every time I always choose to mercy kill Hanbei just because I feel so sorry for the guy. Here we have Owl. Owl is one of the most interesting characters in the game. He is Wolf's adopted father. Owl adopted him on the battlefield and essentially brought him back to his village and raised him as a shinobi. Owl is absolutely massive. I don't know how tall he is exactly, it's probably available on the wiki, but I'd say at least 9 or 10 feet tall. He is an absolute unit. I mean, just look at the size of his hair in the bottom right. It is crazy. One thing that I find really funny about Owl, however, is if you get the Dragon's Spring sake and give it to Ishin, he tells you that how all of the fools would come to court trying to get a taste of the wine, and one of these fools was Owl, and how Owl, despite being this big, old, grizzled shinobi, after 1 or 2 drinks turned crimson in the face with booze, which I just think is so funny. This massive man who puts on these airs of being so tough, yet can't hold his liquor despite his size. I just find that funny. Over here we have Lady Butterfly, who we find in the Hirata estate. She's the final boss of that area. Personally for me, she was my hardest boss while playing. I think a lot of people probably have the same feeling, or at least they did when they first encountered her. Yeah, very difficult boss fight. The first phase isn't that bad, but the second phase, oh my god, it is difficult to say the least. But I still think she's a really cool character, and her design is great. She has this kind of welcoming grandmother look, but is anything but. She's this super deadly assassin who has control of illusions and everything. She's such a formidable fighter, and it takes a lot for Wolf to finally bring her down. Here we have some pictures of the different Shinobi prosthetics. So here we just have the general Shinobi prosthetic. I really like this idea. I don't know what the term is for this, but it's one of those things where it's like if people had the technology in the Sengoku area to make prosthetics, you know, it would be with bone and tissue and stuff like that. It wouldn't be cybernetics. It would be something like this. We also have the loaded axe, which is great for splitting shields. We have the shuriken, which is great for knocking enemies out of the air. These actually come in really handy against Lady Butterfly when she is sitting on one of her wires. If you hit her with a shuriken while she's on one of them or jumping, she plummets to the ground and you can get a couple of free hits on. We also have the loaded spear and the umbrella, as well as the flame vent. Personally, and this wasn't on purpose or to do a challenge run or anything, I never really used that much of the Shinobi Prosthetic. I used the axe for breaking shields, mainly during the Hirata Estate raid, and sometimes a shuriken, but other than that, I upgraded it, and because I went to like New Game Plus 7 or whatever, all of my tools are completely upgraded because you can only get so much lapis lazuli, which is what you need to upgrade your prosthetic tools to the final mark. I think you get 2 or 3 per playthrough, so to upgrade them all you need to play through a couple of times. But yeah, I don't know, it's not that it's not cool, it just never clicked with me. Maybe that's just my personal playstyle. So let's continue. Here we have Wolf's Sword, the Kasubimaru, gifted to him, or re-given to him, by Kuro after Wolf springs him from his imprisonment by Lord Genichiro. Why Genichiro decided to imprison Kuro with a katana, I do not know, but, you know, it worked out well for us. And I really like the sheath. It's very simple, it's very elegant looking. Same with the crossguard. I really like Wolf's Sword a lot. You don't get to see it in detail that much in the game, but looking at it here, it really is a beautiful looking sword. Over here, however, we have the Mortal Blade, said to be a legend. We find this about halfway into the game, and this is the only weapon which is capable of harming those afflicted with the dragon's heritage, such as Kuro. So this is one of the things we need for Kuro's grand plan to sever immortality from this world. It's a bit more decorative, but since it's a legendary sword, I'd say it deserves a bit more finery. Over here we have a fallen soldier. This is just a standard enemy type that you face in the game. You find these guys all over the places in different variants. Nothing really much to say about them. Their design is great, and even though they're the same enemy, FromSoftware did go above and beyond by making sure that there are loads of different variants of them throughout the game, so you never feel like you're just killing the same guy over and over and over again. And yeah, there's not much else to say about these guys. Over here we have a samurai general. These are some of the early game bosses. I believe you fight 3 of them at the beginning of the game, and then 2, maybe 3 of them at the very end of the game when Ashina Castle is under siege. I really like these guys. I know they're not difficult boss fights, but in FromSoftware games, I like boss fights where, you know, you're not fighting a god, you're not fighting a giant monster, you're just fighting, you know, a man who for the most part is the same size as you, same weapons as you, and it just feels to me like a very honorable duel between 2 people of potentially equal skill. Obviously, Wolf outmatches these guys, but yeah, fighting these guys is always a treat, even on multiple replaythroughs. Sorry, I thought I had a page stuck. Here we have Inosuke and Inosuke's mother. We find Inosuke at the beginning of the game before the chained Orgo encounter, who is blind, and his mother, who has gone a little bit senile. This is who you get the bell from to access the Hirata Estate area. And once we go into Hirata Estate, we find out why Inosuke went blind. It was because he tried to face Lady Butterfly on his own, and her illusion techniques blinded him. So by the time we find him in the game, he is fully blind. And I believe if you go to Hirata Estate before you speak to Inosuke, and then you speak to him afterwards, I believe he recognizes your voice, which is a very cool detail. It reminds me a lot of Sif from Dark Souls 1, where if you do the Artorias of the Abyss DLC first, Sif recognizes you at the beginning of his boss fight. FromSoftware are just great at little details like that. Here we have Juzo the Drunkard. He's probably one of the funniest enemies in the game, at least to me. He's very powerful, very intimidating, and very hard to stagger. But I just think it's funny how, you know, middle of battle, he'll take out a big cask of sake and just down it and down it and down it. And then when you return to Hirata Estate later on in the game, depending on if you're going for a certain ending, he's the one that discloses that it was Owl who set up the whole raid on Hirata Estate when he knew that Wolf and all the other shinobi would be gone. There's also 2 other enemies that share this model and this weapon and this fighting style, though without the booze. Obviously, I can't remember what their names are, but all 3 of them make for good fights. And here we just have a bandit. These guys are a dime a dozen in Hirata Estate. Very weak, very little damage, very easy to kill. However, they have numbers, so you need to still be careful, otherwise they will swarm you and they will absolutely destroy you. Unlike Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Elden Ring, Sekiro isn't great when it comes to taking on a horde of enemies at once. The game is built around fighting one-on-one battles, maybe 1-on-2 battles, but, you know, 1 on 5 or 6 if these guys alert the whole team, puts you in a situation where you're gonna have a bad time. Oops, sorry, I got the pages stuck. Here we have the Chained Ogre. I feel like this guy was a filter for a lot of people when this game came out. I know a few friends who dropped the game due to this boss. He's definitely annoying. I always find that the Firecracker prosthetic is really good. But yeah, he's definitely a pain to fight, and I think everyone who's played Sekiro has at least one story of him grabbing you during a grapple attack and just throwing you off the side of the cliff where you fight him, which I always just think is hilarious because there's no coming back from that. Speaking of bosses that gave people a lot of issues, the Guardian Ape. This is probably one of my most loved and most hated bosses in all of Sekiro. This guy took me hours on my first playthrough, and just like everyone else, I think everyone else has, or most people at least who have played this game, have a very similar story when it comes to this guy, where you defeat him, you deplete his stamina bar, you get the prompt, you jump up on his back, you grab the sword that's embedded into his neck, you grab it and jump down, decapitating him. It pops up on your screen saying Shinobi Execution, and you think to yourself, oh my god, it's finally over. I can't believe that took so long, but I'm so glad it's over. And then wait a minute, the ape starts moving again, and his headless body picks up the sword in one hand, picks up his severed head in his other hand, and phase 2 begins. And yeah, I always think that his moveset during phase 2 is very, very creepy, because he's essentially being controlled by a centipede, and the centipede is trying to imitate human moves, or human sword moves at least, and it's just, the moves aren't wrong, but they're not right either, if you know what I mean. They're just they're just slightly off enough to kind of give you the creeps, so at least they gave me the creeps. And once you finally defeat him, you jump up onto his back, yank the centipede out of his neck where his head used to be, and you kill the centipede, ending him for once and for all. Next up we have the Corrupted Monk. We fight this boss twice. The first one is as an illusion, and the second one is for real, guarding the gateway, or the entrance, to the Divine Realm. And I believe she has 3 health bars. The monk is a she, by the way. I don't know if that many people know that, but yeah, she has such a cool design. Her laugh is so haunting and so creepy, but between the creepiness of her and her laugh and her skeleton arms, mixed with the beauty of the arena that you fight her in, this beautiful bridge with water everywhere, and these beautiful trees and blossom, just make for an excellent, excellent, counter. Over here we just have a corpse. I believe it's in the middle of decomposing. Not really much to say about that, so let's move on. So another, yes. Oh no, that's it. So, everybody, that is the end of this video. That was the Sekiro Shadows Die Twice miniature art book. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My plan is to do some of the smaller art books first for my first few videos, and then after that go into some of the bigger books. I just decided to do this one as my first book just because I know Sekiro like the back of my hand. I've played it so much and I love it so much. So thank you very much for watching. If you are listening to this while in bed, laying down, trying to sleep, this is the end of the video, so go ahead and close the video now so the ads at the end don't wake you up. And I will see you guys in the next video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and peace. Bye.